Nephilim Files.
Welcome to the Nephilim Files. Today we're going to be looking at how these creatures can sit still and just confuse your eyes, because what's happening, all this blur in the forest that doesn't belong there, is a part of their existence and how they are confusing us. Watch this. There's a really, and we're going to have something really awesome to see here. Watch this. As this footage moves forward, my Osmo is panning. And look, we got eye shine right there. Right here. This is just the side of his face. Watch this. Watch this, man. Here it comes. Here it comes. Oh, no. There's an enormous Paul Stanley looking guy in the bushes, Mom. He's right there. So we've got this huge human type guy in there, and then there's something in front of him or next to him. It could be his fingers on top of something in front of him. We're seeing the ball of one of the fingers here. These could be the tips of fingers, his, outstretched in front of him is what I'm saying. A thumb, possibly. It is actually the right finger in the right angle for his right hand. So it looks like possibly an index right there with the shine of the white of the skin, right? So he could have his hand out in front of him. But this is definitely his face, and it'll throw you off because he's achromatic. So portions of his face are in diffusion and retransmitting at the strength that's hitting, right? And that's shade. Human beings call it shade, but it's actually colored light. We just can't see the colored frequency, right? We know that it's darker for some reason is the way we see it, right? But when it hits them, you see that it's not just shade. It can be different colors, and we've got browns and olives and dark greens, and we've got this olive gray kind of in here. But then there's this bright white, and if you look, it's throwing the whole thing off, and that's what it's designed to do. These creatures have what we would call bright white skin, and their hair complements that. A lot of it can be clear. It's more of a salt and pepper with like a silvery opaque, most of it. A lot of individuals are dark as well. But this is the opposite. This is the creature of light described in the book of Enki is what I think. This thing right here blends, and you can see he's got his mouth here. But the light on his cheek instantly adds an element of confusion because you're trying to balance it with something of the same tone, and these three things don't look like a face. Meanwhile, he's blending, and you're catching a glint off of his cheek. That's what the lens is receiving this as bright, but really it's absent coloration. He's forward just far enough outside that diffusion line that the tip of his nose and this convex of his cheek is picking up direct sunlight, and the way we see it is colorless. That's a more accurate representation of what's actually happening. But there he is, and make no mistake, he is there. Now, I have walked here, and there are videos right on the site here that you can watch, that you can see me walk past this. And I'm about this tall, dude. This thing's head, this is possibly the one that Sean and I witnessed from the tree line when we left here on the day we shot this. We left and then turned around because our cameras were dying, and I'm like, well, let's see what's going on, anybody around us, you know? And we go turn around, and this thing is standing in the tree line behind 4 of these like pencil pines. And they're not exactly pencil pines, man. They're about 16 inches around. These are pretty good pine trees, man. You know, 8 inches in diameter, 10 inches in diameter, a lot of these. Some of them are larger. But this is an enormous Nephilim. Welcome to the Nephilim Files. Welcome to the Nephilim Files. Today we're looking at some really large creatures here. There's a fair amount of these creatures that are watching us. People are calling them skunk apes when they see the small ones. These are enormous. This is a very, very large species of these creatures. Human beings standing over here are about this tall, and that's around 6 feet. So this thing's head is the size of a really large man's torso. They're enormous, enormous creatures. So first of all, we're dealing with what has been described in history on several occasions as possibly being related to the Nephilim, and that's biblical stuff. But what are these things that people keep seeing, right? And they look just like this. This is what it is, right? But these are enormous. These are in a place that we've been studying, and you can see there's different colorations. We've got this really white, or actually colorless, canvas of skin, and it's really picking up on diffusion. And when that creature leans outside the diffusion line, and like this one is outside the diffusion line, and we're starting to see, you can see the true colorations of what's in there because we're looking at it in direct sunlight. And this is true colorations according to our own limited human vision. What is color when we can't see 99% of it? And that is our reality. So we're learning a great deal about how light affects our perception when it comes to when these creatures are around us as human beings. And we can see the forehead here, this one, and squinty guy, and it looks pretty big, like he's behind this one that's peeking out, so we've got this line of individuals. We're looking at these guys today. We've got this one here, and you can see in the footage how this retransmission of light, you can see he's moving there, blinking, doing all kinds of stuff. Look at that. We got squinting, blinking. There's a couple of frames where you can look at that little Alice Cooper pops up. You can see what appear to be his teeth, like he's kind of gritting his teeth. We back it up frames, we get the mouth movement. We can get this humanoid, skunk ape kind of thing has been described. We even got kind of a line where we can see the side of the head. The other things that are with him, inconsequential because we're on this guy, right? So we know we've got one there, and what develops from, looking through the footage about him, we can see there's definitely a lot going on. When we look close, we've got other creatures in here. We can see, if you understand the symmetries, we have these symmetries elsewhere, noses and possible cheeks, and then possible brows, because we're in this realm with symmetries, right? It's not exactly human. It's spread out. It's wider. It's longitudinally longer. And look at over here, we got this guy. Look, you can see there's a group of them, and at any time in the footage, one can pop and be relatively clear to see that the group is indeed there. But it takes time to examine, and I think a lot of people have foregone this aspect of understanding the creature's existence, largely due to skeptical rhetoric. And what we've proven, if nothing else, is that particular skeptical rhetoric is basic ignorance. And so understanding, what causes the disturbances in lensing out these creatures is a primary concern. And it is something that's going on, and the creatures are in there. There looks to be something even. Whoa, man! Look at how that one. You see, this guy's pretty good there. You can see there's that roughly that skeletal kind of thing with the grit teeth. You got the nasal passages. This is that wild kind of hominoid looking. Then we've got like this hulky looking kind of thing back here. But it's the same basic species. They have the ability to manipulate their soft tissue in ways that will throw you off, man. And they can change the appearance of how they're looking right in front of you. And I've actually witnessed this firsthand. These are some really big ones. And let's take a look at, look at that, man. That is some freaky stuff they're watching. Let's take a look at something else real quick. They just stand there and watch you most of the time. And they're always together. There are always smaller ones on top of other ones. But what we found is when we enter certain areas, they're there. And they're watching. And, I don't know, what they're going to do. I just know everybody wants to know if, giants are coming back. Are these things that are supposedly coming back? In history, it talks about all of this stuff. And what I can tell you is, they're they're already here, man. They're here, and they've been here, and they're very clever, and they have natural adaptations. So I think we're seeing Sasquatch are young giants, and that's what I'm going off of, because we're seeing the exact same smaller creatures, but they're enormous. Thanks for watching the Nephilim Files. Subscribe to us on YouTube here, and if you'd like to support our field study, we're on Patreon. It's Crypto Reality on Patreon. Appears to be pursed, and we can see his eye there in his forehead, but this is the guy we've been watching, and just looking at how they're doing this, and you can see his nose he's got a little sniffer action going on there, but how is all this disturbance? And aside from the fact that it's a considerable distance, because when you approach them, they flee. So you don't even notice them fleeing because they're lightning quick, or they bury themselves. And that's more the opportunity that, from a research standpoint, I'm approaching now, because I've been there too many times with knowledge, and approach these areas from haphazard angles, and I've caught these creatures, and in those situations, there's something going on underground, and it becomes obvious after so many times of what's really happening here. And what we consistently see is their interaction with the ground in our footage. So we have to do simple addition in this to come up with what's really the simplest explanation of all, which is that they're burying themselves, to the extent that even patches of ground brush are on top of very large creatures, and I don't put this past their ingenuity in any way. They're ingenious and fully aware that their camouflage is confounding human beings. They're using it to their advantage in these situations by creating areas where there really aren't, there isn't enough brush to keep them, but they're bringing brush in, and we see this. The areas change on a daily basis. You've been with us through the tracking of these areas, and you've seen the damage paths that the creatures leave behind them. You've seen the treetops ripped off. You've seen the things thrown, 60 yards from their, like we found the tree broken, and here's the bottom half, and the top half is out in the prairie completely stripped and no branches on it. It looks like a giant spear. You look at these things, and that takes quite a bit of energy. It's a lot of evidence of a lot of displaced energy in this place, is what I'll say. You know what I mean? And it's accompanied by giant tracks, and we found those tracks to in excess of 30 inches. 33, I think, is what Brian has told me and shown me, and then I've found them to 33 inches and possibly a little larger. The tracks, they're not all human-shaped, and that's the important thing that we've learned, is that this species or these species that are capable of bending light in ways that throw off human perception with this achromatic coloration, it's a perfect earth type of camouflage that makes perfect sense. Look at the eye blinking on this massive creature that's watching me. I was hoping that somebody caught on to him earlier. I'm drawing your attention up in this area, but I've got it's disturbing. Look at him. Here's the bridge of his nose. Got to interrupt for a second here. Look at this guy standing in the back. This is the kind that I've seen that has a mohawk. They literally have mohawks on top of their heads. They're white or colorless with mohawks, which means they blend in everywhere they go. And human beings can't even tell they're there. This is his right eye, though we're seeing it from camera, obviously, on the left here. It's his right eye. Is this fingers up on the side of his face? Is this his hand up? The proportions seem correct. Is it a small creature? It's difficult to say. But there's something strange going on, and these are obviously not bushes hiding in the trees with these enormous symmetries, right? So we've got these other ones that we have, pretty conclusive footage of that are hiding in this bush, and then that effect is conjugating, and it's adding off of each other as it retransmits, and we're getting this glow that is literally preventing our cameras from engaging with any kind of solid line. There's a blur. Do you see it? You can see it. Doesn't matter which individual you try to follow, and there's several. Look at this guy's face, his whole brow, angle of his head. We got his eyes. We got this. This is one of the goblins that I've seen. Looks like he's going ooh. You can see it. Do you see him going ooh? Let's do something. Just real quick. Let's see what was going on in the footage at this time. Okay, I'm yelling. Not much. So whatever that creature was doing, he was doing it. It doesn't appear to be in a response to anything. You can see him here, and we've got this enormous weird. Look at these guys. I mean, this is. Look at that. One eye, two eyes. Boom. Big nose. Another creature peeking. I mean, we've got some really interesting things going on where they're moving in between frames and trying to get a better look. Here we got this guy here. And right now we're going to take a look at, it's a really stellar piece of footage of this guy. You can see him right here. Brow ridges, and the retransmission, we got a whole 3/4 of a face of one here. It's got that angled cheekbone angle. You can see these individuals squinting. This is what the conjugation of this retransmission will do. Are you seeing this right now? This thing has got his hand up. Here he is, and you can see his whole giant head. But it looks like his giant hand, which appears to be about the size of a man, he appears to be pushing something over, like he's pushing his buddy to move his head, because there's definitely other ones with him. But you can see here's his hand coming up, and that's like fingertips pushing this guy. I thought that was interesting. That's the footage. That's actual, and we can look at distances like this. So this is pretty much exactly the way the clip was shot. This is a different part of the clip. This is where we're looking at Skunk Ape. Look at him. Here's our Skunk Ape right here looking at us, and then over here. And this is, again, really simple observation to get the footage. It's more about understanding what the conjugation effect produces, because what we're seeing is the creatures are constantly around each other, and in studying them, you got to take all of the bad with the good, because what's going on 24/7 is this retransmission. Anytime there's light, what is this? Look at this. Is this tusks and a big set of nostrils? What is this? Oh man. See, this is what I'm saying. We don't know all of what's out there. Look at perfect forehead. You can see the creature right here, man. This is a big dude. Huge. Look at the mouth. That weird kind of monkey primitive creature nose, man. And that here again, that forehead. We were looking at this guy back here. Right here. and we see the slope, right? And then we come over here, and in that one section, we're picking up. Wow! Look at that! Look at this, man. This is great. This is what I like doing, man. Is I like to examine footage, and here we get some of the teeth. He's got a little. Look how the Alice Cooper shows up at certain angles. Look at that. There's your humanoid. That's an anthropoid, wild anthropoid. But that's not all we're looking at, man. Let's look at something else.